Well, hello there. You are tuning in live to the Dobbins. It's been a while, and we are so glad to be back with you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good evening, good night, even good morning, depending on when
Depending
you're
on where
watching
you're
and
from.
where you are located. We are happy to be here this afternoon, just talking with you. And as you're joining in, go ahead and like and share as we reach out once again to say hi, hello, how are you doing? We hope sincerely that you are doing well in your respective places. And know it's a little bit of a surprise. Didn't give you much of any notice, but sometimes that's the way it is. We just have a moment, we just take advantage of the moment, and we see where it goes. So today we are going to keep it light.
I'm going to try to share to your page because I don't think you're over there. So you go ahead and I'll do my thing.
All right. Yeah. So we are looking at the topic, how can you tell that you're in love with someone? That's a question that's asked so many times. And depending on who you ask and when you ask them, you may get a multitude of answers. That also sometimes breeds another question, which um, uh, is it that I can only be in love with one person, just one person, and that one person, all the billions of people in the world? Uh, is it really true that I only have one person that is my partner for life? Or is it a case of our ability to be compatible?
Hmm.
So while I believe that we can be compatible with a number of people, because we have billions of people on the earth, I do also believe that God also has the intention for us to be with a specific person. Many of us are fortunate to meet that person, marry that person, spend the rest of our life with that person. And some of us may not be as fortunate or as blessed. But we come back to the original question, how can you tell that you are in love with someone? And see, my wife is looking at me quizzically because she wants to hear what I have to say.
Mhm.
So there are a couple of things, and of course, these are not in any particular order, and these are not exhaustive. These are just a few thoughts that has come to mind, and perhaps using my own experience is anecdotal, so it's not scientific. So you take it for what it's worth. Now, one of the things that I observe when someone is in love is their willingness to step out of their comfort zone, their willingness to sacrifice.
Okay.
In fact, sacrifice becomes easy when you are in love with somebody. When you are in love with somebody, sacrifice becomes easy, and you are able to step out of your comfort zone, try things that you would not normally try. So, for example, my wife likes roller coasters, and I remember I used to like those things, but as I grew older, perhaps it's just my not being able to drive the ride and to trust somebody else to do the job. I don't like roller coasters anymore.
Hmm.
So, but when my wife came, it's something that was important to her. So, guess what? I tried to go on a few roller coasters with her at Six Flags, and I tolerated the experience because it's something that she wanted to do, and I wanted her to be happy. So when you are in love, sacrifice becomes easy, and stepping out of your comfort zone is something that you are willing to do, even when you're fearful, even when you are not quite sure how it's all gonna work out, even when you would not do it by yourself.
Mm.
When you're in love, you tend to extend yourself, trying to accommodate the other person. So sacrifice is something that you will note and you will do. You will see in the other person if they are in love with you, and you with them. Um, any thoughts on that, babe?
The we're Jamaican, so the thing that came to mind was, back in the day, I don't know if they still do this, but when guys are trying to, lyrics a girl, they would say, I would climb maca tree for you. So in other words, I would climb a thorny bush for you. So I guess that's the sacrifice they're willing to make to
Yeah, so
show
so
that
since
they
our
love
since our
you.
audience is our audience is international, what do you mean lyrics the girl?
Oh, oh, I don't know. How do I say that?
Tell her nice things that you
Yes,
think
whisper
she
sweet
wants to hear.
nothings in her ear to, you know, let her feel like, she's the one. And yeah.
All right. Well, those of you who are watching, we would love to hear your comments, your thoughts about that willingness to sacrifice, willingness to step out of your comfort zone as a sign that one may be in love. Another thing that I have noticed as well is that when you are with the person you're in love with, time together is never long enough, and time away from each other is way
Too
too
long.
long. All right. So time together is never long enough, and time away from each other is too long. And if you've had the experience where you have to talk to your friend, your lover, on the phone, initially in the relationship or early in the relationship, you'll find yourselves spending hours on the phone,
Hmm.
talking, sometimes just listening to her breathe.
Mm. Listening to
uh,
him snore.
Love make you do silly things, things that make no logical sense, but in the moment it seems like the thing to do. So people would spend hours on the phone talking or not talking, just
Just
being
being in each
there,
other's presence. Yeah, I think
and
that's the
then
thing.
hanging up the phone becomes a whole activity by itself,
Mm.
because one person is saying you hang up first, and then the other person is saying
No,
no, you
you
hang
hang
up
up.
first, and that may go on for a good 15 minutes, with both persons trying not to hang up on the other person. So but one thing for sure is that time spent together is never long enough.
Mm.
People talk on the phone for hours, and get no sleep, and so they're going to work sleep deprived the next day, and they're happy to do it. And
Mm.
you imagine happy to go to work sleep deprived the next day.
Mm.
Why? Because one is in love.
So another thing that, as we're talking now, because he didn't prep me on what we're going to talk about. So one of the things that I thought about is when we started. I don't even know if we started dating, but when we started being friends and wanting to spend time with each other, we would make sacrifices in the sense that I was living in a whole different part of the country. So we had to make the sacrifice to see each other. We had to travel at, some distance. We had to make plans, and we wanted to because we enjoyed each other's company. So that's something that I consider a sacrifice. something you do when you love someone. You make time for them. You put other things on the back burner so that they can become priority. And yes, on those occasions where we are together, we are able to be in each other's company. It seems like the time goes so fast, and you can't wait for the next time. So yeah, so that just came back to mind. It's been a few years, but yes.
All right, only a few years. All right. So the other thing that comes to mind when as an indicator that one may be in love, you feel happy around the person, and you even feel happy just thinking about them.
Mm.
All right, you feel happy being around the person, and you feel happy just thinking about them.
Now, is this just for the newbies, or are we talking married folks too who've been married for a while?
It is more obvious in the newer folks. That the folks who are married for a while are not quite as sensitive to how the other person make you feel until the other person
Is
may have to
away.
leave.
Yes, that's true.
Oh Lord,
That's
that's
true.
something.
I do not
Uh,
like when he has to travel, y'all.
it is quite a thing when you are away, and it just disrupts your entire flow. You don't feel, you feel like something or somebody
Missing.
is missing. So yes, being in love with somebody, you will have that feeling of happiness just being around them, and happiness just thinking about them.
So maybe, maybe the difference as you get further into the relationship, for the newer ones, it comes across as that very obvious emotion of happiness and joy. But maybe, and don't get me wrong, that still continues throughout the relationship. It's just not always in the forefront, because there are other aspects of things that come into play as you gel together as a couple. So maybe the thing that happens more with the more seasoned couples is a sense of contentment.
Mhm.
So I think it's still in that same family of happiness,
Happiness.
joy, but this one, it's kind of that, you know, it's simmering, and it's there. It's not creating a whole lot of waves, but it's right there. It's constant. It's just there. And then every now and again, and hopefully more times than every now and again, the joy comes to the fore, and that sense of happiness comes to the fore.
Yeah,
Date nights and things like that brings that part to the fore.
yeah. Folks who are you know newly in love, and so on and so forth.
Hey, Miss
Sometimes,
Tahima, good to see you.
hello Taima. Sometimes you will see the transition in just their demeanor. So, for example, I know of a lady that I didn't see for a long time, and we happened to go to Jamaica to preach, and she decided to show up to support us. And I noticed, even from the platform, looking down in the audience, seeing this person, and it's like their countenance was very alive and light. Now, this is somebody who's normally quite serious and quite reserved, not really on the emotional side. But because this person was in love, in the throes of fresh love, let's call it that way,
Mm.
um, there was this almost happy-go-lucky uh,
Pep in their step.
demeanor that I never I know that person all my life, and I never saw that person like that all my life. So when
Mm.
I saw that, I said, wow.
Something's going on.
Something is going on and somebody is going on. So yeah. So when somebody is in love, you feel happy around them, and you feel happy even just thinking about them. So the last one that we're going to talk about today, because we just want to keep this short, is that when it's the right person, there is a sense of knowing.
Mm.
There is a sense of peace about it. There is a sense of peace about the relationship. There is that sense of knowing for sure that this is the person. And
You
some
knew for sure.
yes, I knew for sure. So I remember while we weren't even dating formally at the time, but I had a function to attend. I had a teacher's function to attend back home, and I had to bring a date to the function, and so I did have options.
Yeah, he
Um,
did.
but I decided that I was going to ask one person, and she was the only person. And I was so certain, I was so certain of getting a yes that I didn't even put in a contingency plan, and I didn't have much time either. So I just asked her, and I was completely confident that she's going to say yes, and we're gonna go to this thing together. I never considered the possibility of her saying no. That's somebody would consider that reckless. But I simply did not consider the possibility of her saying no. There was just this sense of knowing
Mm.
that this is the one, this is going to work. And so whenever, hopefully, those who are watching here this evening, and whenever you're watching this, hopefully you've had that experience, and you're with that one that you had that experience with. But there is a quiet peace, there's a quiet confidence that you have that this person is the one. Now, things may not even be, headed in that direction, or they may be headed in that direction, but things are a little bit rocky and rough and so on. But when it is all said and done, you come back to that peace. You come back to that confidence. And you do things from a place of confidence and not a place of fear. Now, you may not be able to even explain or defend why you have this feeling, or why you have this peace, or why you have this confidence, but there is that sense of knowing. And I'm not sure if this is pertinent to just about everybody, but certainly for those who are children of God, I feel that this is one of those areas in which the Holy Spirit speaks, and He speaks that peace.
Mm.
Yes.
Well, sometimes you don't, sometimes it's a faith walk, because I remember when it came down to the time that I, you know, needed to make a decision and make a commitment for my husband. I was scared. It was a scary thing for me. Um, but it was also a faith move, I think, because I had commitment issues. Um, I did not trust people, and it was difficult to commit to saying yes to this one person. Not that I was all over town with everybody. That wasn't it. I was nowhere with anyone because I trusted no one. So, when it got down to the point where I knew this was God, I did not feel at peace right away, but I knew I heard from God. And so I said yes, and it was after I said yes, after I took the faith move to do what I felt the Holy Spirit was telling me to do, that's when I felt the peace. And, thankfully, I did feel that sense of peace, that I am doing the right thing, because things started to move and shift. And if I wasn't sure, I would have pulled out, I would have backed out. But because I know I had the knowing of the Holy Spirit that this was a God move, and I acted on faith, even though I didn't feel confident or I didn't feel at ease about it. Once I made the step, the peace came. Once
Mm.
I said yes, and we had that conversation. I don't know how y'all do it these days, but we actually had a conversation about whether this is something we wanted to pursue or not. Are we on the same page? Do we want to get on the same page? Things like that. So once I got to the point where I was like, okay, I had a chance to think about this and say yes, the peace of God came.
Mm.
And that peace has kept us through some really challenging times. We were already living in two separate parts of the country. He was about to migrate to another country. Um, and I would not be joining him in that migration at the time. And so there were other things that came along the way that if I was not sure this was God, I would have said, I am not doing this. This is not for me. So know God and know the peace of God, and make sure you have that when you're making a commitment to a relationship.
Yeah. So the next question that one would ask is, what do you do when you are in a relationship that seems to be heading to a place of commitment and you don't have that peace?
Hmm.
What do you do about that? Um, that's a great question. The one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to ignore the fact that you don't have the peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to ignore that. And secondly, you then need to prayerfully consider where in all of this, or what about all of this that caused me not to have peace about it. And so you're gonna have to be honest with yourself, because in that time there may be all kinds of other things going on, and your friends may even like this person for
Mm-hmm.
you. Your family may like this person for you. Your church family may like this person for you. But if you are not having the peace, uh, your peace
Mm.
is most
That's
important
true.
in that scenario. So even if you get a word and the man of God said, this one is your wife or that one is your husband, and you don't have the peace, the fact that you don't have any peace about it
Is
supersede that word that came to you,
Yeah,
because it means there's something there that God
still needs to
Himself
be
is telling
addressed.
you to pay attention to.
Yeah. So give pause. Pause. It doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is not gonna work. It just means that there might be something that you need to address. So in my case, I didn't have the peace right away, but my issue was the not being willing to commit. So that was on me to
Mm,
determine whether or not this is something that I am going to work on, or if I'm just going to say, you know what, it's too much. I'm not doing this. And, so for me, I decided, all right, I'm going to take that leap of faith. I'm going to make the commitment. And then, we see where it goes. So yeah, pause. Don't just feel like because someone else told you or everybody else. And that was another thing. Everybody else loved him for me. I was the last one on the ship. I was the last one to get on board. but everybody else loved him. My bishop, my family, all the people who mattered to me, liked his character, liked what they saw. But it needed to be right for me. I needed to make that decision.
Mm.
And yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I hope this has provoked some thought, and I hope it has provoked thoughts in a positive direction, and not necessarily in a negative direction. But how can I tell that I'm in love with someone? And the couple of things that we talked about: willingness to step out of one's comfort zone, sacrifice becomes easy. The
Mhm.
next one is that the time you spend together is always too short. The time away from each other is always too long. The other one is that you feel happy around them and you feel happy just thinking about them. And finally, if it's the right one, there is a peace, there is a knowing. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. We are thankful that you've joined us, and we are going to look to make this,
A little bit more consistent.
yes, yes, a little bit more regular. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you all enjoy the holiday weekend that's coming up. And of
Mhm.
course, Sunday is Pentecost Sunday.
Ooh, can't wait.
So church is gonna be, what them say, lit. Church is gonna
Yeah.
be on fire on Sunday.
Oh, oh yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna announce prayer meeting, but I was
Oh.
like, oh wait, we're not on celestial things.
Well, since you went there, we're having in-person prayer tonight. So if you're in the area, please come on in. It's 10 p.m. till midnight. All right, so that's it. That's the last it. So we love you all. God bless you all, and we will see
See
you
you
in
in
the
the
next
next
one.
one.
Bye bye.
Bye.